Hello YIS Media family. Hello book lovers. How are you? Today we present to you an excerpt from a great book titled Make Today Count by John C. Maxwell. Subscribe to the media, like and share the video, and if you have an opinion on the story, leave it in the comment section. Thank you. Now directly to the narrative. Faith. I grew up in a household filled with faith. My father, Melvin, became a pastor as a young man and remains in ministry to this day at age 83. I heard words of faith from him and my mother, Laura, every day growing up. But you can't live on someone else's faith. There are no spiritual grandchildren. Each person must make his own decision and act on it with integrity. At age 17, I made my faith decision: I will accept God's gift of His Son, Jesus Christ, as my Savior. That decision, more than any other, has shaped my life. It has forged my worldview. Recognition of God's love for everyone has influenced how I view others. The Golden Rule has taught me how to treat people. God's love for me has given me great self-worth. And the Bible has taught me how to lead people. Whenever I am asked to sign a copy of the Maxwell Leadership Bible, the edition that contains leadership notes from my 30 years of studying leadership in Scripture, I write, everything I know about leadership I learned from this book. It is my privilege to be a national board member of the Center for Faith Walk Leadership. The organization, founded by my friend Ken Blanchard, encourages leading in the workplace according to the highest standard. Here's what Ken says that means. It doesn't mean the bottom line, or looking good to Wall Street, or being praised by your peers. It's not about getting the credit, or the promotions, or the raises. It's about working with those you lead to get results in a way that honors God. It's about people, service, and results. It's a new way of leading based on the teachings of Jesus, the greatest leader of all time. He gave his followers a vision of something greater than themselves. He consistently reminded them of the long-term effects of their work. He allowed those around him to fail, but held them accountable. He redirected them. He forgave them. And he inspired the best in others. And the result? He started a movement that continues to thrive more than 2,000 years later. True leadership starts with the heart, with character. The underlying message from God is not to act differently, but to become different. Not to act honestly, but to become an honest person. Then honesty will be at the core of your leadership style. It will be at the core of your life. My faith has not only given me peace, it has given me a wonderful model for leadership and life. Making the decision to deepen and live out faith daily. If you desire to make an honest exploration of faith, then know this: we already have faith. The important choice is where we place it. Author John Bissigno observed, faith is at the heart of life. You go to a doctor whose name you cannot pronounce. He gives you a prescription you cannot read. You take it to a pharmacist you have never seen. He gives you a medicine you do not understand, and yet you take it. We all have faith. Every day we act on beliefs that have little or no evidence to back them up. That is also true in a spiritual sense. Just as one person has faith that God is real, an atheist has faith that there is no God. Both people hold strong beliefs, and neither person can produce evidence to absolutely prove his point of view. Right now, you already have faith in something. Your goal should be to align your beliefs with the truth. Seek the truth, and I believe you will find it. Understand that faith is often birthed out of difficulties. I've already shared that some skeptical people see faith as a negative thing, almost as a sign of weakness. If faith is new to You are uncertain how to approach it, then I would advise you to view it as an opportunity for a course correction. In the journey of life. In a play by T.S. Eliot, one of the most influential poets of the 20th century, one character expresses it in those terms. He describes a faith that comes after extreme disappointment. He calls it the kind of faith that arises after despair. The destination cannot be described, you will know very little until you get there, you will journey blind. But the way leads toward possession of what you have sought. For in the wrong place. If you are experiencing difficulties, allow yourself to explore faith in response to it. Henry Nouwen said this is the great conversation in our life, to recognize and believe that the many unexpected events are not just disturbing interruptions of our projects, but the way in which God molds our hearts and prepares us. Faith not only can help you through a crisis, it can help you to approach life after the hard times with a whole new perspective. It can help you adopt an outlook of hope and courage through faith to face reality. A faith that hasn't been tested can't be trusted. It's not enough to simply make a faith decision. If you want to live it out, then you have to work at deepening it. Faith gives you peace and strength only if it's not superficial. The deeper the faith, the greater its potential to carry you through the rough times. As Rabbi Abraham Heschel said, faith, like Job's, cannot be shaken because it is the result of having been shaken. Perhaps nothing in recent history tested the faith of so many people as severely as the Holocaust. Viennese psychiatrist Viktor Frankl was one of the survivors of the Nazis' atrocities. He spent 1942 to 1945 in the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Dachau. Frankl once said, "A weak faith is weakened by predicaments and catastrophes, whereas a strong faith is strengthened by them." Despite the horrors he witnessed and the treatment he suffered, his faith didn't weaken, it deepened. Managing the discipline of faith. Thousands of books have been written on how to live out the discipline of faith. Perhaps that is so because it is such a difficult thing to do. For me, the discipline can be captured in one simple phrase: every day to live and lead like Jesus. While the words are simple, following through is not. Living out the discipline of faith is the greatest challenge of my daily dozen. The problem is that instead of being like Jesus, I often want to be like John Maxwell. I fall short of the mark. But with God as my helper, I keep growing. And when I do follow in His footsteps and live His principles, people are helped and I am fulfilled. Following are 4 suggestions for managing your discipline of faith. 1. Embrace the value of faith. I've already given a number of reasons why I think faith is beneficial. But let me add to that list. There are some things in life you will arrive at only through faith. In the past, many people hoped that science would provide all the answers to life's questions. But science cannot do that. Ironically, what is embraced as scientific fact changes from generation to generation. Just look at the way scientists have viewed our solar system. Ptolemy believed the Earth was at its center. Copernicus asserted that the Sun was at its center and the planets moved in circular orbits around it. Kepler proved that the orbits were elliptical. Today, scientists no longer argue the structure of the solar system, but ideas about how it was formed change continually. In fact, just this week scientists found what they are calling the oldest known planet in the globular star cluster M4. They say it is a stunning revelation that will force scientists to revise their ideas of planetary formation. 26. Contrast science with faith. The core beliefs of Judaism and Christianity have not changed in thousands of years. There is A spiritual aspect to human life that cannot be denied. Spiritual needs must be met spiritually. Nothing else will fill the void. To put God in the picture. There's a story of a man driving a convertible on a mountain road who took an unexpected turn too quickly and went right over the edge. As his car fell, he managed to grab onto a tree sprouting from the cliff face as his car dropped 1,000 feet to the canyon floor. "Help," he screamed. "Can anyone hear me?" An echo was the only response. "God, can you hear me?" he cried. Suddenly the clouds rolled together and a voice like thunder said, "Yes, I can hear you. Will you help me?" "Yes, I will help you. Do you believe in me?" "Yes, I believe in you." "Do you trust me?" "Yes, yes, I trust you." "Please, hurry. If you trust me, then let go of the tree," thundered the voice. After a long silence, the man cried, "Can anyone else hear me?" If you want to embrace faith, you must let God into your life. No one else is worthy of our absolute and unconditional trust. Theologian F. B. Meyer said, "Unbelief puts our circumstances between us and God. Faith puts God between us and our circumstances." Who wouldn't like to have the creator of the universe helping them? James, one of the fathers of the first century church, advised, "Come near to God and he will come near to you." 27. 3. Associate with people of faith. Comedian Bob Hope once went to the airport to meet his wife, Dolores, who had been doing some charity work for the Catholic Church. When her private plane pulled in, the first two people to step off the plane were Catholic priests. Then came Dolores, followed by 4 more Catholic priests. Hope turned to a friend near him and quipped, "I don't know why she just doesn't buy insurance like everybody else. It's a fact that you become more like the people you spend time with. If you desire to increase your faith, spend time with others who exercise theirs. Learn from them. Find out how they think. 4. Explore and deepen your faith. Developing your faith is very similar to developing yourself physically. Perhaps that's why the Bible contains so many athletic metaphors for spiritual growth. If you want to get into good physical condition, you need to exercise your body regularly. If you don't, you not only don't gain strength and conditioning, you begin to lose what you once had. D. L. Moody, a 19th century lay preacher who founded Northfield Seminary and the Moody Bible Institute, explained how his faith developed. He said, "I prayed for faith and thought that someday faith would come down and strike me like lightning. But faith did not seem to come. One day I read in the 10th chapter of Romans, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. I had closed my Bible and prayed for faith. I now opened my Bible and began to study. And faith has been growing ever since." Your faith decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to faith today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to deepen and live out my faith daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your faith discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning faith, what is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
Relationships. When I was in college in 1965, I took Psychology 101 with Drive. David Van Hoos. One day as he was lecturing, he said something that really got my attention. He remarked, "If you have one true friend in life, you are very fortunate. If you have 2 real friends, it is highly unusual." I was dumbfounded. As a sanguine student, I thought everyone had lots of friends. Even though Dr. Van Hoos defined friendships as relationships characterized by unconditional love, I was still shocked. Relationships had always been important to me, and I developed good people skills at a young age. When I was in my early teens, my father encouraged me to read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I've always remembered the advice that the master of relationships gave in the book: in order to make friends, one must first be friendly. 28 I had embraced that recommendation, but after hearing the words of my psychology professor, I determined to be more intentional and take relationships to a new level in my life. That's when I made this relationship decision: I will initiate and make an investment in relationships with others. Making the decision to initiate and invest in solid relationships daily. I think a lot of people don't take responsibility for the relationships in their lives. They simply let things happen to them rather than being intentional about it. But to have the kind of solid relationships that bring fulfillment, you have to change your mindset when it comes to dealing with others. Here are some ways you can do that. Place a high value on people. Let's face it, if you don't care about people, you are unlikely to make building good relationships a priority in your life. My friend Ken Blanchard, author of Well Done and Raving Fans, jokes that the Department of Motor Vehicles evidently seeks out and hires people who hate people. When you go to get your driver's license, you expect to be treated poorly. What one-time National Salesman of the Year Les Giblin said is true. You can't make the other fellow feel important in your presence if you secretly feel that he is a nobody. The solution is to place a high value on people. Expect the best from everyone. Assume people's motives are good unless they prove them to be otherwise. Value them by their best moments. And give them your friendship rather than asking for theirs. That will ultimately be their decision. Learn to understand people. Tom Peters and Nancy Austin, authors of A Passion for Excellence, state that the number one managerial productivity problem in America is, quite simply, managers who are out of touch with their people and out of touch with their customers. 29 I think one possible explanation is that some managers don't value people. But that isn't always true. Many people care about others, but they still remain out of touch. In those cases, I think the problem is that they don't understand people. If you desire to improve your understanding of people so that you can build positive relationships, then keep in mind the following truths about people and actions you can take to bridge the gap often caused by them. People are insecure, give them confidence. People want to feel special, sincerely compliment them. People desire a better tomorrow, show them hope. People need to be understood, listen to them. People are selfish, speak to their needs first. People get emotionally low, encourage them. People want to be associated with success, help them win. When you understand people, don't take their shortcomings personally, and help them to succeed, you lay the groundwork for good relationships. Give respect freely but expect to earn it from others. One day a man arriving at the airport saw a well-dressed businessman yelling at a porter about the way he was handling his luggage. The more irate the businessman became, the calmer and more professional the porter appeared. When the abusive man left, the first man complimented the porter on his restraint. "Oh, it was nothing," said the porter. "You know, that man's going to Miami, but his bags they're going to Kalamazoo." People who disrespect others always hurt themselves relationally, and they often reap other negative consequences. I believe every human being deserves to be treated with respect because everyone has value. I also have observed that giving people respect first is one of the most effective ways of interacting with others. However, that doesn't mean you can demand respect in return. You must earn it. If you respect yourself, respect others, and exhibit competence, others will almost always give you respect. If everyone treated others with respect, the world would be a better place. Commit yourself to adding value to others. 19th century English preacher Charles Spurgeon advised, Carve your name on hearts and not on marble. The best way to do that is to add value to others. Do that by looking for ability in others, helping others discover their ability, helping others develop their ability. Some people approach every interaction with others as a transaction. They're willing to add value, but only if they expect to receive value in return. If you want to make relationships a priority, you must check your motives to be sure you are not trying to manipulate others for your own gain. To make sure your motives are right, take this advice from Leo Buscaglia, who wrote Loving Each Other. Always start a relationship by asking, do I have ulterior motives for wanting to relate to this person? Is my caring conditional? Am I trying to escape something? Am I planning to change the person? Do I need this person to help me make up for a deficiency in myself? If your answer to any of these questions is yes, leave the person alone. He or she is better off without you. 30. Managing the discipline of relationship building. I think a lot of the time we take relationships for granted. Because of that, we don't always give them the attention they deserve or require. But good relationships require a lot of effort to keep me on track in my relationships so that I'm investing in them as I must to make them successful. I practice this discipline. Every day I make the conscious effort to deposit goodwill into my relationships with others. That means I give more than I expect to receive, love others unconditionally, look for ways to add value to others, and bring joy to the relationships I hold dear. Every evening, I evaluate this area of my life by asking myself, have I been thoughtful toward people today? Would they express joy that they have spent time with me? If the answer is yes, then I've done my part. If you want to improve your relationships through your everyday actions, then do the following. Put others first. The best way to start off on the right foot is to put others first. The most basic way to do that is to practice the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you take that mindset into all your interactions with others, you can't go wrong. But there are also other ways to show people they matter and that you are interested in their well-being. Walk slowly through the crowd, remember people's names, smile at everyone, and be quick to offer help. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Don't carry emotional baggage. Few things weigh as much as old hurts and offenses carried day after day in a person's life. If you want to enjoy your time with other people, you've got to get rid of that kind of stuff. You can't keep score of old wrongs and expect to make relationships right. If someone has hurt you and you need to address it and get it out onto the table, then do it right away. Resolve it and get beyond it. If it's not worth bringing up, forget about it and move on. Give time to your most valuable relationships. Most people give away their relational energy on a first-come, first-served basis. Whoever gets their attention first gobbles up their time and relational energy. That's why the squeaky wheels instead of the high producers at work consume so much attention and why so many people have nothing left to give when they get home from work. Since you've already read the chapter on family, you should know that I believe your family provides the most valuable relationships in your life. They should come first as you plan to spend your time. After that should come your next most important relationships. It's a matter of practicing good priorities. Serve others gladly. I once heard an airline executive explain how difficult it is to hire and train people for his industry. He said that service is the only thing they have to sell, but it is the toughest thing to teach because nobody wants to be thought of as a servant. Helen Keller said, life is an exciting business and most exciting when lived for others. I think that's true. The longer I live, the more convinced I am that adding value to others is the greatest thing we can do in this life. Because of that, when I serve, I try to do so cheerfully and with the greatest impact. Express love and appreciation often. After I had my heart attack, a lot of people asked me, what was your dominant emotion? Was it fear, panic, questions? My answer surprised many of them. In fact, it really surprised me. It was love. More than anything else in those moments of pain when I wasn't sure whether I would live or die, I wanted to tell the people closest to me how much I loved them, my family, the people who work with me, longtime friends. I learned that you can't tell the people you love how much you love them too often. I think many people believe the best way they can help others is to criticize them, to give them the benefit of their wisdom. I disagree. The best way to help people is to see the best in them. I want to encourage every person I meet. I want them to know the good I see in them. I practice the 101% principle. I look for the one thing I admire in them and give them 100% encouragement for it. It helps me to like them. It helps them to like me. And what else could be better for starting a relationship? Your relationship decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to relationships today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to initiate and invest in solid relationships daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your relationship discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning relationships. What is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
Generosity. When my wife, Margaret, and I started our life together in the weeks after our wedding, we moved to Hillham, Indiana, where I took my first job. The church that hired me was able to pay only $80 a week, so Margaret worked several jobs to help us make ends meet. Those days were very difficult for us financially, yet they were still filled with great joy. At that time, my brother, Larry, was tasting early success in the business world and was doing very well financially. Larry and his wife, Anita, saw that we were struggling, and for those first few years, they were very generous to us. The only vacations we had were ones they invited us on and paid for. All my good clothes were the result of their generosity. Larry paid my expenses as I worked on a business degree. We will always be grateful to them. As I look back on those days, 3 thoughts are clear to me. First, Margaret and I were never jealous of Larry and Anita's financial success. We were thrilled for them, and not once did we covet what they had. Second, we could see that their generous spirit was a tremendous source of joy for them and a blessing for us. Third, I began to realize the incredible value of having a generous lifestyle toward others. That's when I made another of my life decisions: I will live to give. Margaret and I recognized that greatness is not defined by what a person receives, but by what that person gives. True generosity isn't a function of income, it begins with the heart. It's about serving others and looking for ways to add value to them. That's the way to achieve significance in your life. Making the decision to plan for and model generosity daily. If you desire to become generous and make generosity part of your daily life, then do the following. Give others your money. The way people handle money colors their attitude about many other aspects of their lives. Wherever your money is, that's where your attention goes. Haven't you found that to be true? If you invest heavily in the stock market, you probably check the financial page or your earning statements frequently. If you spend a large amount of money on a house, you probably spend a lot of time and effort taking care of it. If you give a lot of money to a church or favorite charity, you care how the money is used and whether the organization succeeds. That truth is even borne out in the scriptures. In fact, there are a lot of insights about money contained in the Bible. Believe it or not, the Bible has more teachings about money than about prayer. One of the most telling observations is this: 1. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. 31. If you give money to people, either directly or through a worthy charity, you will care about people more. And that will help to foster a more generous spirit in you. You have to prime the pump, so to speak, and then the giving will flow. If you wait until you feel like it to give, you may wait forever. You become generous by first giving money away. Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who gave away millions of dollars, said, "No man becomes rich unless he enriches others." Give others yourself. What do people often value more than your money? The answer is your time and attention. Think about it. What takes greater effort, writing a check or giving your time? What shows the greater level of commitment? My friend Larry Burkett said, "Where there is no giving, there is no commitment." I believe that is true. The people closest to you would rather have you than your money. Nothing can take the place of a spouse's affection. A child desires to have a parent's undivided attention more than anything else. Even sharp employees with great potential understand that a good mentor is more valuable than a mere monetary reward. Money may buy stuff, but a good mentor buys a better future. When you give the gift of yourself, you are being as generous as you can be. Take a moment to recall the people who've had the greatest impact in your life. Perhaps you had a teacher who helped you understand that you could think and learn. Maybe you had a parent, aunt, or uncle who made you feel loved and accepted. Or perhaps a coach or employer saw your potential, painted a positive picture of your future, and then challenged and equipped you to reach for something better. They helped you to become the person you were always meant to be. What gift could be greater than that? Rabbi Harold Kushner said, "The purpose of life is not to win. The purpose of life is to grow and to share." When you come to look back on all that you have done in life, you will get more satisfaction from the pleasure you brought to other people's lives than you will from the times that you outdid and defeated them. When you invest in another person just for the sake of seeing that person blossom, with no thought to any benefit you might receive, you will be the kind of generous person others want to be around. And your days truly will be masterpieces. Some people see giving to others as more than just a kind and beneficial act. They see it as an obligation. Physician and missionary Sir Wilfrid T. Grenfell said, "The service we render to others is really the rent we pay for our room on this earth." It is obvious that man is himself a traveler, that the purpose of this world is not to have and to hold, but to give and to serve. There can be no other meaning. Managing the discipline of generosity. It's very easy to live only for yourself. In fact, that may be every person's natural bent. I know it's mine. But we can take another path to be generous. My desire is to be the kind of person I would like to be around. To help with that, I practice this discipline, reminding myself, every day I will add value to others. What does it mean to add value to others? How do you do it? Here is how to start. Value people. This means treating everyone with respect. Know what people value. This means listening and seeking to understand others. Make myself more valuable. This means growing in order to give, because I cannot give what I do not possess. Do things that God values, since He unconditionally loves people, so must I. When you value people, you open the door to generosity. And it becomes much easier to plan for and model generosity daily. If you've adopted that mindset, you're ready to be generous to others. Think about these things as you strive to practice the discipline of generosity every day. Don't wait for prosperity to become generous. Because I spent over 25 years in the ministry, I know a lot about people's giving patterns and their attitudes about money. One of the things I've heard many people say is that if they ever have a lot of money, then they will become generous. People who say such things are usually fooling themselves. A person's level of income and desire to give have nothing to do with each other. Some of the most generous people I know have nothing materially. And I know plenty of people who have a lot to give but no heart to give it. Statistics bear that out. The average personal income in the state of Mississippi is the second lowest in the United States ranked by state, yet the state is ranked 6th in charitable giving. In contrast, New Hampshire is ranked 6th in average personal income. Do you know where they rank in charitable giving as a percentage of income? They're 45th. 32. Prosperity and high income don't help people become generous. In fact, Henry Ward Beecher, the brother of novelist Harriet Beecher Stowe, warned that they could actually make people less likely to give. He said, "Watch lest prosperity destroy generosity." People in the United States live in the most prosperous country in the world during the most prosperous time in its history. Yet they still don't give much. Today, 2.5% of our income goes to charitable giving. That's lower than it was during the Great Depression, 2.9%. 33 and 80% of Americans who earn at least $1 million a year leave nothing to charity in their wills. 34. People give not from the top of their purses, but from the bottom of their hearts. If you desire to become a more generous person, don't wait for your income to change. Change your heart. Do that, and you can become a giver regardless of your income or circumstances. Find a reason to give every day. It may be easy for people to find reasons not to give. But it's just as easy to find good reasons to give. You just need to look for them. Go out of your way to find reasons to give. Look for a compelling cause. Find an urgent need. Look for a group that is making an impact. Seek out leaders you know and believe in. Give to organizations you respect and trust. They're all around you just need to make it a priority. Find people to receive every day. D.L. Moody, founder of the Moody Bible Institute, said, "Do all the good you can, to all the people you can, in all the ways you can, as long as you can." When it comes right down to it, the recipients of your generosity are never causes, institutions, or organizations. Ultimately, the recipients are individual people. People in need of help are all around you. You don't need to go halfway around the world or send a check overseas to help and serve others, although there's nothing wrong with doing those things. But there are plenty of people closer to home who can benefit from what you have to offer. People in your own town, your own neighborhood, even your own home. Being generous means keeping your eyes open for opportunities to give to everyone, whether it's through mentoring a colleague, feeding a homeless person, sharing your faith with a friend, or spending time with your kids. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King, Jr., said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing for others?" How you answer that question is a measure of your generosity. And the more generous you are, the greater your opportunity to do something significant for others. Your generosity decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to generosity today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to plan for and model generosity daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your generosity discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning generosity. What is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
Values. I grew up in a home where great values were taught and lived out, but I didn't make a conscious decision to embrace good values and live them out until 1970 when I was 23 years old. That year I read Spiritual Leadership by J. Oswald Sanders. 35 It changed my life. Up until then, I had been a people pleaser and census taker in my leadership. I led people according to what was popular. 90% of the time that was okay. But on the occasions when a real leadership decision was required, when I really needed to do something that would be unpopular, I wavered. Reading Sanders's book made me realize that I was not leading according to my values. And it gave me the courage to do the right thing, even if it wasn't popular. I made the decision, I will lead others based on the values I embrace. I still have my copy of Spiritual Leadership because it marked me. Inside the back cover, I wrote 3 commitments that would shape the rest of my life. The book challenged me. 1. To be God's man, no matter where my work takes me, I desire to be in the center of God's will. 2. To develop my potential to the best of my ability, I will never allow myself to be lazy, indifferent, or non-committal concerning spiritually lost people. 3. To be a true spiritual leader, God is my idol, Jesus is my pattern, and the Bible provides my direction. Too many Men are stereotyped leaders. Their whole outlook is warped by their surroundings. I will not, with God's help, be poured into another man's mold or teach what I do not believe. For 34 years, I've continually asked myself this question: am I leading others according to the values I embrace? At times, my value-based leadership has alienated me from others, but never from myself. Making the decision to embrace and practice good values daily. Comedian Fred Allen said, "You only live once. But if you work it right, once is enough." How can people work it right? By knowing their values and living by them every day. Do that, and you will have few regrets at the end of your life. Here are some suggestions to help you get started. Create a list of good values. Begin writing down any and every idea you have concerning values. List every admirable character quality you can think of. As an aspect of your life comes to mind, try to capture what's important to you about it. Ultimately, your values should not be determined by externals, such as your profession or your environment, but as you consider such things, you will be prompted to be thorough in your thinking. When you think you've exhausted every possible idea, set the list aside for a while, but keep thinking about it in the back of your mind. When new ideas come, add them to the list. You may also want to do some reading to stir your thinking and see if you've missed anything. After a few weeks, begin to combine ideas on the list. 4. Example: truthfulness and integrity really overlap. So do commitment and hard work. Choose one or pick another word that better describes both terms together. Then narrow it down. You can't possibly live out 20 or 50 values, so you need to start eliminating some which are based on truth and your highest ideals. Which items on your list truly represent the core of your being? Which will be lasting? What would you be willing to live for? To die for? Start eliminating anything that's superficial or temporary. If you're married, involve your spouse in this process. Your lists of values may not be identical, but they should have much in common. And if any of your values seem to be at odds with your spouse's, beware. You need to talk these values through and find out where you really stand, or there will always be conflict in your marriage. Embrace those good values. Years ago, my friend Jim Dobson, the founder of Focus on the Family, delivered the commencement address at Seattle Pacific University. In it he spoke about the midlife crisis that many people experience between the ages of 35 and 50. He said, "I believe that it is more a phenomenon of a wrong value system than it is the age group in which it occurs. All of a sudden you realize that the ladder you've been climbing is leaning against the wrong wall." Clarifying and embracing your values can help you to prevent such a thing from happening to you. Make a decision to live those values daily. True life change begins when you decide to change your value system, because it's foundational to everything you do. My friend Pat Williams, Senior Vice President of the Orlando Magic, once told me that when Roy Disney was asked about the secret of Disney's success, he used to say that the company was managed by values, which led to ease in good decision-making. The same is true for an individual. Physicist Albert Einstein advised, "Try not to become men of success. Rather, become men of value." Why would he say such a thing? Because he knew that having values keeps a person focused on the important things. That leads to a better quality of life, a life of integrity. Besides, if you focus on your values, success is likely to follow anyway. Managing the discipline of values. Managing your life according to your values isn't easy. Why? Because your values will be tested daily by those who do not embrace them. Negative people may discount you when you display a positive attitude. People without families may not understand your devotion to your family. Unteachable people won't understand your dedication to personal growth. And those whose priorities are different from yours will try to convince you to follow them or make unwise compromises. The discipline I practice to battle this is simple. Every day I review and reflect on my values. To help me do that, I keep a list of my daily dozen in my thinking companion, a little notebook I always keep with me so that I can write down ideas and jot down reminders of things to tell Margaret. Every time I open the notebook, I see those 12 values. I also give myself the 12-minute test. At the end of each day, I spend 1 minute reviewing and reflecting on each of the daily dozen. That way, I stay on track and am less likely to drift away from living out my values. To become better at embracing and practicing your values every day, follow these guidelines. Articulate and embrace your values daily. How do you manage something as abstract as your values? You begin by putting them in concrete form. Once you've created your list of values, write a descriptive statement for each one explaining how you intend to apply it to your life and what benefit or direction that will bring. Keep that document where you can see it every day. Think about your values often to help them soak in. As you go through your day and face decisions, measure your choices against your values. And whenever it's appropriate, talk about them. It not only cements your values in your mind and helps you to practice them, but it also adds a level of accountability. Good business leaders understand the importance of speaking about their values continually. Stu Leonard, president of the grocery store chain Stu Leonard's, says that he continually verbalizes the value of the company's customers. We don't see customers the way you do, he says. Our people imagine each of our customers with $50,000 tattooed on their forehead. How is that? It's simply a matter of math. $100 average amount each customer spends per week, times 50 number of weeks per year customers shop his store, times 10 average number of years residents live in his city, equals $50,000 the value of each customer 36. When you embrace your values wholeheartedly and articulate them continually, you dramatically increase your chances of living them. Compare your values to your practices daily. The gap between knowing and doing is significantly greater than the gap between ignorance and knowledge. A person who identifies and articulates his values but doesn't practice them is like a salesman who makes promises to a customer and then fails to deliver. He has no credibility. In business, the result is that the person loses his job. In life, the person loses his integrity. In 1995, Girish Shah, an assistant controller for a division of a Fortune 500 company, was charged with embezzling $988,000 from the company over an 8-year period. He pleaded no contest in court, and he was prepared to repay $728,000 immediately and borrow additional money from relatives to repay the rest. The CEO of the company was outraged. To court officials he wrote, "I view Mr. Shah's crime as particularly egregious. Not only did he steal from the stockholders of this Fortune 500 company, but he breached the fiduciary duty placed in him by the company and his supervisors. I urge you to impress upon Mr. Shah and those others who commit similar crimes that wrongdoing of this nature against society is considered a grave matter by the Texas court and will not be condoned. 37. You know what was ironic about that statement? It was made by Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski, the man later charged with looting $600 million from that same company with the help of 2 other executives. 38 Evidently this disconnection between his stated values and his practices was a pattern. Kozlowski used to brag to people about how frugal he was with the company's money. He often pointed out the Spartan offices the company possessed in one location, even as he maintained lavishly appointed offices in another. Discrepancies between values and practices create chaos in a person's life. If you talk your values but neglect to walk them, then you will continually undermine your integrity and credibility. And that will happen even if you are unaware of your behavior and are not doing it intentionally. Live out your values regardless of your feelings. Many people get into trouble when their values and their feelings collide. When you're feeling good and everything's going your way, it's not difficult to consistently live out your values. However, when your values determine you should take an action that will hurt you or cost you something, it can be harder to follow through. If one of your values is integrity and you found a bank bag of money on the street that you suspected was stolen, you probably wouldn't have too difficult a time turning the money into the police. But what if you saw your boss stealing from the company you work for and you knew that calling attention to it would get you fired? That choice would be more difficult. Especially if you knew that losing your job might cost you your house or ruin you financially. Successful people do what's right no matter how they feel about it. They don't expect to be able to feel their way into acting. They act first and then hope that their feelings follow suit. Usually that doesn't involve anything dramatic. The tough decisions are the everyday ones. For example, if good health is one of my values, will I exercise even though I don't feel like it in the morning? Will I refrain from eating a big piece of chocolate cake even though I really want it? For me to be successful, my values not my feelings need to control my actions. Ken Blanchard and Norman Vincent Peale wrote in The Power of Ethical Management, nice guys may appear to finish last, but usually they are running in a different race. 39. Living by your values is running in a different race. Evaluate each day in light of your values. Most people take very little time to do any reflective thinking, yet that is necessary for anyone who wants to live out his values with consistency. Ben Franklin used to get up in the morning asking himself, what good will I do today? When he went to bed, he asked himself, what good did I do today? He was evaluating himself in light of one of his values. For the last several years, I've tried to do something similar. At the end of the day, I reflect on whether I have added value to anyone's life during the day, because that is something I desire to do every day of my life. Your values decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to values today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to embrace and practice good values daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your values discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning values, what is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
This is the end of Chapter 1 of John C. Maxwell's book entitled Listeners Make Today Count. Dear members of the YIS Media family, we sincerely hope that you are happy with the story. Give us credit for your sacrifice of time and follow-up. Stay safe until we meet in the second part of the book.